All right, hello, and welcome to what has become an annual tradition, the Next 36 application webinar for people that are thinking about applying to our 2017 cohort. My name is John French. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Next 36. I've been with the organization for almost 6 years now, so I've seen how the program has evolved from year to year, and I think that we had some of our top entrepreneurs ever in this year's cohort. You are going to get to meet and hear from them, 3 of them very shortly. They just graduated from the program on Tuesday, Adventure Day. But first, some quick housekeeping. For those of you that are not familiar with the Next 36, we are a national nonprofit charity with the goal of making Canada more prosperous, more competitive by identifying a small number of the country's top entrepreneurs and providing them with access to capital, mentorship from some of the country's top entrepreneurs and business leaders, as well as what we call founder development. It's education that's relevant to the startups, to the companies that they're building. We have been around for 6 years, and we have just opened up applications for our 2017 cohort. You can apply online now. The application deadline is October the 18th. There's 2 steps to the application process. The first is a written component, and then there's also a video interview you will complete using Kira Talent, which is a Next 36 venture from 2012. I might ask our alumni what the Kira experience was like in a couple of minutes. And we will also be hitting the country, traveling coast to coast for our national campus tour from Vancouver to Calgary, Edmonton, southwestern Ontario, Kingston, Ottawa, Montreal, hopefully Atlantic Canada. All of the information on that national tour is on our website. This webinar is coming to you live from Globalive offices in Toronto, and I'd like to thank our co-chair of the Next 36, Tony Lacavera, founder of Win Mobile, for providing the space. Also want to thank the team at Pragmatic, who is delivering the webinar through their fantastic platform. And I want to remind all of you who have questions that you can either ask those questions directly through the platform, or you can tweet at us. We'd love it if you tweeted at us using our handle, which is @Next36, and the hashtag N36Apply hashtag. If we don't get to your questions during the next 45 minutes or so, we promise to follow up on all the questions that you have. And the last piece of information is that this is being recorded and archived. So if you're not able to watch the whole broadcast, you will see it on our website within the next day or 2. Now that the housekeeping is out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to our 3 alumni, starting with Nish, who is the co-founder of Tandem.
Hey guys, my name is Nish. I started off as a mechanical engineer at the University of Toronto. Ever since I was into mechanical engineering, I said, well, the world is moving into technology, and that's what I really wanted to get into, so I became a software developer. And I wanted to make a difference in technology, so I created Tandem. And Tandem is basically a software collaboration tool for remote developers to collaborate on code. We allow for remote teams to work as efficiently as if they're working in the same room, and that's why we created Tandem.
Okay. And next up, Andrea, founder of Awake Labs.
Hi, I'm Andrea Palmer. I'm the founder of Awake Labs, as you just heard. We're building a wearable device to measure and track anxiety for children with autism in order to better understand behavior, prevent behavior meltdowns, and increase the success of independence. And I studied mechanical engineering at the University of British Columbia with a minor in mechatronics and a minor in commerce as well.
And I should point out, in case she's too modest to admit it, that Awake Labs was one of the recipients of an award at Venture Day for the top venture, and also the Statue Prize, which is awarded to the top entrepreneur in the program. So congratulations to Andrea. And last but not least, Jacob, who is the co-founder of Mindset.
So I'm Jacob. I'm a graduate from McGill Mechanical Engineering as well. We're working on Mindset. So it's a pair of over-ear headphones that read your brain activity in order to improve your concentration. So whenever you want to get a lot of work done, you can put on the headphones. The moment you get distracted or wandering thoughts or someone walking in front of you, let's say, it catches that distraction and lets you know through auditory cues, and it can bring you back to task and improve your concentration over the long term.
Okay. And I'm going to stick with Jacob for another question follow-up. All 3 of you have many options when you are heading towards the end of your university career. Why did you apply, or what about the Next 36 got you excited? What kind of brought you to the program?
The thing that brought me to the program really was that this gives you an opportunity to put yourself in a position to do everything possible to become an entrepreneur. So I'll speak for myself on this. When I was in university as a mechanical engineer, it's very much the typical you go to university, you graduate, you get a good job, and hopefully you build your career from there. And being an entrepreneur didn't really seem like a viable option. It seemed like something that you would have to put a lot of time towards, during which you basically have to tell people you're unemployed. And what this program does is it puts you in front of all the right mentorship, all the right leaders, all the right teams to make this actually a reality. That's really what I was looking for when I applied.
Terrific. Andrea, same question.
I applied the year after my graduating year. I joined the program a year after. So I graduated in May 2015, and after I went to a program in California. I incorporated the company that September, went to Startup Chile, and then joined the program this year, I guess. And really what it made me apply, what made me want to join the program was the venture or the founder development program, which was really all of the courses, the practical business applications of how do you start a company, how do you read a term sheet, how do you prepare for selling your product internationally. We had gone through a few programs before, and it was very much how do you come up with the idea, how do you validate the idea, and this was a lot more on the applied business, finance, and economic side of things, and that's why we joined.
Nish?
Awesome. For me as well, I actually applied after I finished up university. But in my last year of university in the summer, I was working on a completely different business called Tutor Space. It didn't go very well, but that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. And I'm the kind of person who, if I do it once and I don't do it successfully, I gotta do it again. And I just wanted another opportunity to go into something else and be an entrepreneur again. So I actually already had a job after graduating university. I had to quit my job in order to be part of this program, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Just to be able to get this kind of mentorship, and I really want to be with the best of the best people. And sometimes it's difficult to surround yourself with people who think exactly like you, but this program was something that really let me do that, which is why I really wanted to apply and I really want to be a part of it.
Sure. Thank you. I think we're already getting a question that relates to eligibility, and so maybe to set the stage, for those of you that are wondering whether or not the program is a good fit for you, we are looking for students or grads, students that are in their last 2 years of study of an undergraduate or master's program, or have graduated within the last year, and generally we're looking for entrepreneurs who are under 30 years of age. The piece of advice that I always give, though, is if you don't fall into that specific criteria, if you're in doubt, just apply. This is a program for outliers, for the exceptional, and if you are a first-year student or you graduated a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, but you think you would benefit from the resources that the program provides, apply. The bar might be higher, but tell us why you need to be in the program. The application, again, is completed online, and then the timeline after the October 18th application deadline is as follows. We invite the top 80 or so applicants to a national selection weekend that happens this year, December 1st through 3rd. It happens in Toronto. If you're across the country or abroad, we will bring you in and cover the cost for that weekend. That is meant to be a microcosm of what the entire program is like. You will meet exceptional business leaders, C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, faculty members, alumni of the program. You will be put through a pretty rigorous interview process, and you'll get a sense for what the program is all about. And at that weekend, we select the top 36. And this is where things get a little bit different this year versus last year, and I think it's going to set up nicely to hearing a little bit more about your teams. Those of you who are familiar with the next 36, in the early days of the program, we picked the 36, and it was almost like a social engineering of teams. We would put 3 people together, they would start a team from scratch and build, over the next 7 months, a startup. What happened last year for the first time, which is going to continue going forward because it was very well received, is we pick the top 36 individuals, and then we give them the next 6 weeks to figure out who they want to work with and on what project or idea they want to work with. And that includes something that they might have already been working on. If you're in a campus accelerator back in your hometown or in your home community, you can actually now continue with an early stage venture idea. I would say the cutoff is investment. So if you receive private investment, that's where it might make sense to start looking at other programs. But if you've won pitch competitions, received some grant money, the next 36 is probably something for you. After those 6 weeks, people came back to us and they said, this is my team and this is the idea that we're working on. Those co-founders could come from the other 35 that got selected. They could come from external friends or co-founders that are back at home. Theoretically, you could have a professor, a faculty member that you're working on research with, that you want to start a company with. And those founders, those external founders, could apply a second intake into the program, or they could stay outside of the program and take advantage of some of the benefits during the course of the program. And then over the next 4 months, remotely, the teams build their venture and iterate on the idea that they already have. And for 3 months in the summer, they are in Toronto. You're going to hear about what that experience is like, all driving towards Venture Day, which happened 2 days ago. So that's a little bit about the timeline and how the program was redesigned last year to allow you a lot more flexibility with regards to who you work with, because who you work with is probably the most important thing, and what idea you work on. With that set up, I'm going to ask each of you to share a little bit about the background of your founding team and what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, maybe just strengths, and how you identified each other, how you met each other. And we'll start with Nish.
For sure. So I actually came into the program with an idea, but I was a sole founder at the time. And I met both of my founders through the Next 36. So they're both accepted into the program. And I just happened to be sitting next to one person at MIA selection weekend, and she happened to be my next co-founder. We both started together, and we were looking for another person to come onto the team, especially somebody who's strongly technically. And this year, there were some really great technically strong people there. And so all three of us came together. I think for me, we were building a technology product, and we wanted some really strong individuals who are really passionate about the area. And one of the best things about selection weekend is you meet a lot of people with a lot of interest in a variety of things. And so it was really easy to find somebody who wanted to be part of what you're building and to be part of the vision. So we found everybody at selection weekend. We came together, and the team's strong and still going. Can't complain.
Terrific. Andrea? And I would remind the panelists to hold the mic a little bit closer to your mouth just so everybody at home can hear.
I found my co-founder through mechanical engineering. I specialized in mechatronics and he specialized in biomedical engineering. And when we were in third year, we were assigned to a team together to design a wheelchair treadmill or something like that. And we worked really well together. And so when it came time to form a team for an entrepreneurship course, we chose to work together again. And that really is what carried us forward. Over the course after graduation until we became a real company, there were 2 other co-founders who joined and left at different times. And then my partner, Paul, came back and rejoined the team in January, and we've been working strong together ever since.
Okay, Jacob?
After selection weekend, what I was looking for was a team of people to surround myself with who had complementary skill sets and who could really bring what we had to the next level. At that point, I had no idea, I had no team. So I knew I wanted someone on the technical side to complement my own skill set, so something a little more hands-on. I tended to be very academic and theoretical. I wanted someone who's built stuff before and who I knew I could work with. So I had one of my co-founders comes from McGill, is with me. I'd worked with them on some projects before, and I knew we would work really well together, and we were aligned on the vision of what we wanted to do. And then at that point, we knew we wanted someone on the business side to be able to, let's say, bring the technology that we were working on to life and have that kind of business sense that we were lacking. So we scanned through the list of applicants that had applied to the program. We were given just a big general list of everyone who had applied, and we chatted with everyone. We tried to see what their skill sets were, as well as what they were looking for in a co-founder, in a business, in a project that they wanted to work on. And we finally found a list, and we aligned really well on what we were looking for, which was to take a technology that could really help people and scale it up to the point where you could have a sustainable business with it.
Terrific. The last 2 alumni are working on hardware, which provides its own unique set of challenges. I'm wondering if each of you could identify maybe one of the biggest challenges in working on a hardware startup and how you're dealing with it.
Sure, I guess I can start. Hardware is fun. You get a lot of you give a lot of ability in the program to see a lot of what everyone else is working on, right? And what the first thing I noticed was that everything that we did took 3 times as long. You could iterate through your product in a much shorter time when you're working on software than on hardware. That being said, me and my co-founder are both mechanical engineers, so we had some experience kind of scrapping together prototypes that may or may not work and may or may not look beautiful, but got the job done. So what we had to do was we had to really set our own deadlines and know what we were expecting. And then whenever we didn't know what to do, be that on the software side or on some of the more theoretical aspects, we just needed to seek out the help. And I think that's one of the things with hardware is that there's a lot of complexities that you kind of won't be able to anticipate. And putting yourself in this program, in this environment where you're surrounded by so much other talent, it makes it a lot easier to seek out that help when you need it.
Okay. Andrea?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Jacob said. I think I would add two small things. One is that because the cycle takes a little bit longer when you're building your hardware prototype and you're testing, you really have to know what you want to test, what you want to build, and what you want to get out of that in order to make that iteration cycle in such a way that you can learn the most in the quickest way and then be able to build from it. With software, you can build the wrong thing and then build the right thing, and you can still keep going, but with hardware, it just takes a little bit longer. And the other big challenge is finding investors or even prospective investors who are willing to go through those cycles with you. There are a lot of investors who are looking only at software-based companies just because they have that ability to move faster and scale faster. And so it is a bigger challenge to find an investment for a hardware company, but it's not impossible. So don't stay away from hardware completely.
One of the questions that we get asked a lot has to do about the type of company. I highlight the hardware example, but when the program first launched, when I joined 5.5 years ago, we were focused on mobile apps and then expanded a little bit into software and then hardware and B2B. And now we're at a point where we've got ventures in the program that are providing physical products such as pet food made from cricket flour, fitness supplements that can be customized. And so if you've got an idea, don't think that it needs to be in the tech space to excel inside the Next 36. We're really looking for entrepreneurs, for individuals who want to build something that is scalable, disruptive, global in nature, regardless of whether or not it's tech. And then the other point to mention is even though we've got 3 entrepreneurs with engineering backgrounds on the panel, there are commerce, arts, health sciences, architecture students that are in and have gone through the program. So we're program agnostic. It doesn't matter what you're studying. We want you in the program. My next question will be for Nish. The biggest difference that I can see in the entrepreneurial landscape across Canada at the university level is that 6 years ago, there weren't campus accelerator programs, incubators, classes for first-year students that teach you about entrepreneurship. And I'm thinking about the Hatchery, which you went through at the University of Toronto, Velocity at the University of Waterloo, which has now been around for a number of years. There's the DMZ. Out at UBC, there's a number of programs. It's different than it was 6 years ago. I'll ask both you and Andrea, how has the Next 36 experience complemented or built on the foundation that you got in programs like the Hatchery?
So the Hatchery is a great program for the University of Toronto. They really help engineers build products amongst other people in the university. So they allow for engineers to collaborate with people in the arts and science department, and they also provide you with mentorship. They also provide you with a space to work in. But one of the things the Next 36 provided that was like really elevated the experience was just the network of people that you're working with, and also the ability to work with students from, not even students, but recent graduates from all across Canada, and really people who want to change the world. So when you're in your university accelerator, it's a much smaller pool of people, but this is happening on a national level. And to be with people around you who think similar to you do, and be people around you who really have higher ambitions than ever imaginable, it motivates you to a next level. And having them work with you, as well as having the mentors who have truly built huge businesses, and having them be with you on an everyday basis, having them mentor you all the time and really help you on the day-to-day and as well as the vision, it's an experience that is unparalleled in my experience. That was what I took away the most from the Next 36.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And Andrea?
I would echo what Nish said on the scale of the network that the Next 36 has and has brought together. And it truly is like the best people in our cohort from across the country and the best people that they've somehow managed to get on as mentors and as advisors, who continue to give their time and energy to this program to help us little young entrepreneurs succeed in the world. And the other thing is the programs I had done before, specifically the New Venture Design program at UBC and some of the content from entrepreneurship at UBC really focused on the lean startup methodology and the business model canvas, which is really important to build a baseline for how to develop a company and test and validate your market and all those things. And the Next 36 focuses on the applied business aspects that really take you from that theoretical base to running your day-to-day company and how to get it from where you are to 5 years and 10 years in the future.
Terrific. All three of you have already talked about network and how the Next 36 is able to provide you exposure to these business leaders. It's something that we're very proud of, and we think it is a differentiator. If any of you watching at home take a look at our website and see who is involved on the mentorship side, each one of these individuals had a dedicated mentor throughout the program. You will be impressed by either their background having built a successful company and in many cases exited or have it acquired, or their experience on the investment side, having invested in startups, or in many cases both. In addition to mentorship, we have an advisory pool of dozens of domain experts, subject matter experts, that any of the teams can call on at any time, whether they're looking for advice on marketing, brand, intellectual property, HR, scaling a tech team on the HR side. Tons of examples, but you've got access to this incredible network. I'm wondering if each of you can tell us who your mentor was and what they have done in the past and how they helped your team specifically.
For sure. My mentor was Kevin Kimza. He was the founder of Audience View, and now Audience View is selling tickets all over the world. That's what they do. Their platform to sell secondhand tickets, and he has been such a hands-on mentor. He was able to stay in Toronto this entire year, and he actually invited us to go over to his office several times. He's connected us with his network on a very personal level, and not only that, but he also gave us our first customer. He introduced us to the first people who are using our product and are implementing an enterprise level software agreement with one of his friends. And having somebody like that who really, really believes in what you're doing, who is so hands-on and is available for a call any time of the day, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And Kevin also has a very impressive background on the investment side. Yep. As a partner with OMERS Ventures.
My mentor was Carl Martin from NIMI. They're building a wearable band to provide unique authentication. So instead of using your passwords, your credit cards or something, it uses your cardiac rhythm, which is like a fingerprint and is different for everyone. And being able to work with Carl, who has done all of the wearable design and manufacturing and fundraising for a hardware product before and has made some mistakes and some successes. It really allowed us to grow a lot faster than we would have otherwise. And similar to Nish, he was available at all times when we needed him. Sometimes I would send him a pitch deck at 11 p.m. or midnight, and he would respond by 1 with all of his feedback and comments, and it was crazy. I mean, don't expect that from your mentors, but he was just like so available all the time. And he also had a tremendous network in the wearables space, introducing me to someone who brought me down to a trade show in Santa Clara, and now I'm involved with the We Are Wearables network in here in Toronto as well. So Carl knows this if you're watching, but he knows he's phenomenal in that. And I'm really glad that I was able to meet him through the Next 36, and we're going to carry through, keep on our mentorship relationship in the future. So yeah.
Perfect. And I should mention Carl is an alumni of our Next Founders program, so he actually piloted the year we launched it. And when I talk about eligibility for Next 36 venture ideas and and private investment. If you've received significant funding, if you've got revenue, if you have employees, I would encourage you to take a look at that second program called the Next Founders, which accepts applications starting in January and provides some of the same founder development and networking access that the Next 36 does. Sorry, Jacob.
No worries. So our mentor is Randy Frisch. He's a CEO of Uberflip, a content marketing software. And absolutely amazing. It's been a really, really good experience. We used to laugh that we couldn't schedule meetings too frequently because every time we would exit the meeting, we'd have to completely reanalyze a lot of what we're doing because of the advice that he gave us was so deeply invaluable. And he's connected us to so many other people that have been able to help us move the needle. And what's nice about it is that he's able to point out the things in your business that you tend to just not see because you're so deeply enthralled in thinking about it all the time. And what that leads to is just having deeper insights and being able to look at it from a different perspective that ended up changing our business and pointing in directions that just worked so much better. So yeah, hugely invaluable.
Terrific. And just a reminder, everyone watching live, to ask us questions via the platform or through the Twitter handle at Next36 and hashtag, I believe it's N36Apply. I've got a question that I can pull from Twitter right now from Dorothy. It's a good one. Thank you, Dorothy. You only get one word. This is for each of the alumni. In one word, how would you describe your Next 36 experience and why? On the spot, Jacob.
On the spot, my word is going to be, I'm handing it to Nish.
Okay, so if I use the one word and I want to really make this as non-cliche as possible and explain why I'm using this word, but no, it's roller coaster, and the reason is because the difference between a really good day and a really bad day happens within hours. So you're really just looking to be better off 51% of the time, and the other 49% is a really, really hard time. So delta in having a good time is 2%. Okay, and that's a roller coaster, and you're going through that every single day. But you have people like these guys to support you through it. You have your mentors support you through it, and at the end of it, you just learn to be relentlessly resourceful, and you just want to make it work. And you don't really realize till you do it yourself, and this program is an extremely high pressure program that actually allows you to do that and experience that on a very personal level. I don't think you'd be able to experience that anywhere else, and that's what it was for me in one word.
I was going to use the word connected, but Nish reminded me of relentless, and I think that's a good word to describe the program. It keeps going whether you're ready for it or not, all the classes, the venture development, but so does your business. And so you really have to continuously be doing everything at the same time in order to get your business moving forward, to continue learning, to manage your team. And Reza Satchu likes to say that entrepreneurship is the relentless pursuit of opportunity without regard of resources currently controlled. And you will learn that definition throughout the entire program. And I think that also really shows how relentless you have to be throughout your course in order to get what you need to start your company and to find out what you don't need and filter those things out.
So the reason I passed off the mic was I was trying to come up with something less cliche, but I've got nothing. So honestly, my one word is actually two words, but there's a dash in between, so I think I saved it. It's life-defining. This program shows you things that you never think of and never see in other contexts. And the way I like to explain it is that you come out of the program with 10x the ambition and the expectations for yourself that you ever would have had going into it. So I was going into it thinking about building an incredible business and selling an amazing product and making $2 million. And looking at $2 million in the scope of what we've now learned, it just seems so small, so negligible, right? Yeah. They raise the ambition of what you're looking for and what you're doing for yourself, for others, for your business. I'd say life-defining.
Terrific. We've talked a little bit on founder development, which is education, but it's not like the education we were joking before that if you tell an entrepreneur that part of this program involves sitting in a classroom in the summer, hearing from faculty, some of the top faculty in the world, and entrepreneurs, it may or may not sound compelling, the idea of an academic component, but the education that you receive is directly relevant to the company that you're building and to your development as an entrepreneur. And so I'm going to ask each of you to give an example of one professor or faculty member or speaker that came in during the summer that had an impact on you and or your business, and kind of what advice, insights they shared with you. And you can't repeat the same person.
So I don't get lucky, I get to start it off. I'm going to go with Ajay Agrawal. The insights he provides in the class are hyper tangible, and that's what I really liked about it. What he does is he takes a lot of economic concepts of like even the basic ones like supply and demand, and he immediately relates to how you can use that for your business. So something as simple as market segmentation, which seems like a task that you just sit down in a room and ideate over, he gives you the methodology for how to approach that you can then immediately put towards your business. So we were able to take the headphone market, which is vast and huge and has a lot of different competitors doing different things, and find where we fit in that market and find where our technology can be brought forward and have the biggest impact. So the insights that Ajay was able to provide on that front were immediately applicable, and I think that's what's most important about it.
And Ajay Agrawal, Professor Agrawal, is one of the co-founders of the program and also the academic director for the program. Andrea?
I'm going to go with Professor Nanda, I think, as my as the professor who had the biggest impact on me. He taught finance, entrepreneurial finance, and it was everything from how to come up with your projections for your company, your valuation, to how to read a term sheet. Very, very necessary skills for an entrepreneur, whether you're raising money now or in the future. And he was just able to relate it so well to the people in the room and with all the different backgrounds that John talked about. So we had people who had design backgrounds or marketing backgrounds who really didn't do a lot of hard numbers. And we went through this entire problem set with him that was very numbers heavy, and he was so patient in helping all of us, even me with an engineering background, like work through the problem set and understand, because it's such a fundamental skill to have when you're running a business. And he comes from Harvard University, is that right? And he flew all the way up just to teach us for those 3 days, and it was incredible to have someone of his caliber be so patient with us and teach us such fundamental things. It was great.
That answer, before we get to Nish, that answer reminds me of what Stephen Lake, co-founder of Tandem Labs, has said, and it sounded almost verbatim about the value that Professor Nanda from Harvard Business School added to his development and in his venture. Tandem Labs makes the Myo. It's a wearable technology that reads the muscle impulses in your forearm and allows you to control the technology around you. After the Next 36, Thalmic is not a Next 36 venture, but after the Next 36, Stephen and his two co-founders revisited and created and launched Thalmic Labs. They got into Y Combinator in the Valley and went on to raise about $14-15 million in Series A funding. And Stephen will tell you that when he got into talking to these VCs from Silicon Valley and was going through term sheets and negotiating, that it was the classroom experience with Professor Nanda that made the investors say that he seemed like someone who with 10 years more experience when it came to fundraising. And so if fundraising is something that you've got an eye on longer term, the sessions with Professor Nanda will definitely help you out. Anish?
I think for me it was definitely Professor Catalina. Professor Catalina came in from MIT, and he's a genius, okay? This guy, when we started talking about our business to him, and he started naming problems within the first minute without him even knowing what we do. And he was talking about the pure academics behind remote collaboration. He had written research papers on it. He had a thesis on it. And this one thing he talked about, which really stuck with me, was the concierge service. So being able to solve problems without your own technology, but just doing it yourself. So instead of having to build technology to solve a problem, you sit there at home and you manually solve it for people until you get it done. It's almost like cheating on your business to make it work, but it's unbelievable because you almost to a certain point feel bad about that. But when you figure it out, it just makes you that much more knowledgeable about what you're doing at a much faster rate. And to get that kind of feedback from him, to get that kind of information that this is normal, this is what I do in my day-to-day life, it's crazy. It's really, really cool. And also, it's also amazing because he had actually written several papers on this, and you can go and read about it. And he's always willing to help. He even offered for us to write a story together, which would have the MIT seal on it. And how often do you get something like that?
Could I add?
Definitely.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
One thing that Nish said right at the beginning of him talking about Professor Catalini, was that he was able to give you feedback within the first 2 minutes of meeting with him. And I think the biggest difference between the professors, part of the Next 36, and other mentors that I've had is that within the first 2 minutes, anyone can give you advice on your venture. But the people who are involved with the Next 36 can give you relevant advice with background in your field that you already know. So there's so often you meet someone and their mentor and they start giving you feedback or advice on something that's completely different or has nothing to do with your venture. But the ability of the professors who are involved in this program, they have this domain expertise, and that's like really, really deep, but also really broad, and they're able to, pick out problems that are really relevant to you, that you haven't heard 1,000 times before, and that will actually help you grow as a venture.
Okay. So it sounds like we're getting some questions that relate to the funding and how that works within the program. I mentioned at the beginning that each team in the Next 36 has access to up to $50,000 in funding. Not all teams get the full $50K. The funding comes from an independent or a third-party microfund, the Young Founders Fund. Some of the investors involved in that fund include Globalive Capital and BDC Capital. And the way the funding is handed out is through tranches or funding gates. There's 4 throughout the program. And at each gate, historically, we'll give away more dollars to fewer teams. And in order to receive funding, you need to demonstrate milestones that you've hit or traction that your venture has reached. And so I'll make this an open question for any of the 3 of you. What are some examples of goals or milestones that you hit that you think allowed you to secure additional funding?
So one of the funny stories was that at the first pitch, what they told us was set yourself some milestones and you'll have to reach those for the next pitch, and then that'll decide whether we give you the funding continuing forward. So we set the milestones, we give the pitch, and then we talked to some people afterwards, Ajay in particular, and he said, okay, so I wanted you to go a little deeper into that. Can you explain to me what these milestones are going to be like? And my rambling led me to set more milestones for myself, which at the time when I hung up the call seemed like the worst thing in the world, because I just went back to my co-founders and realized, like, guys, what did I just do? I just set us the most aggressive milestones I'd never expected us to be able to reach. So in our case, we had the technology, we'd started to play with it, we'd started to try and read the brain signals, and we set the milestone of, by the time we got here in May, we had to be able to detect the concentration within the brain signals to within a certain level of accuracy, as well as having talked to 200 customers, as well as having a full work prototype. And that didn't seem like a good idea at the time, but we ended up reaching it. And I think that's the big part of the program, where you'll set more aggressive milestones than you ever expected, and then you hustle to get them done. I think that's one of the most interesting parts of the program.
Before each funding meeting, you meet with Ajay, and then you meet with Peter for the actual pitch and funding meeting, I guess. And Ajay will give you feedback on the milestones that you've set and the progress you've made up until that point. And for us, the biggest thing was really we set some milestones, and Ajay looked at them and he was like, I don't agree with that. And he was like, this is actually what you need to be focusing on if you want to raise money. And here is where you need to, I guess there were 2 main things we were trying to focus on. And he said, no, you need to put all of your resources towards this one thing. You have too many team members. If anything, you need to let some of them go and put even more of your resources over here. And that's what we focused on, and that's what's helped us figure out what's important and what's not important, and get things done.
In terms of reaching milestones, I think the reason we said it's so aggressive was because of Ajay. We had certain things in mind which we thought was accurate, but then Ajay said, no, why aren't you guys comparing yourself with the best software as a service platform out there? You guys should be focusing on how many hours people are using your product per day, and that's what really matters. So let's set your minimum time that you used to be using your product at 2 hours every single day. And people are only at work for 8 hours a day, and then they're eating lunch for another hour, so you want them to be using your product all the time? He said, yes, why are you doing this otherwise? I said, okay, well, let's try that out. And it really, once you have milestones to hit like that, it aggressively changes your timeline, and it makes you work that much harder. And we've been able to hit milestones ever since the very beginning. I think that's why we were always given funding, is because we were all one of the few teams that were able to set milestones and actually worked really, really hard to hit them. And it was not because somebody else set them for us, but it was more about the fact that if we actually hit this, we have a real business going. We have something that actually matters. We have something that works. So let's try to hit it. And if you do, then we're onto something. And that was really the motivation behind the whole thing, and then the whole funding process as well.
Okay. I'll ask the next question of Jacob. It's from Ashley. Ashley, thank you for the question. Wants to know about Kira Talent, the interview process. So maybe without giving away specific questions, without giving away too much, can you talk about what that process was like, if you remember it?
Kira Talent's interesting. I really like the software. What it lets you do is communicate with your interviewer in such a way that you just wouldn't be able to on paper. So what you do is you sit down at your computer, you open it up, you have your webcam ready, and they will give you a question in video format for 10 to 15 seconds. There's a small buffer period after which you have time to think and hopefully gather your thoughts. And then 3, 2, 1, go. Your webcam turns on, you have to answer the question in a minute. And that high pressure environment, first of all, is very indicative of, I think, what the program experience is like. But what it lets you do is explain why you want to be in the program and what you have to offer in such a way that it's a way that you just can't on paper. It's your own words, it's your own video. I liked it. I'm a big fan of the process.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to add, Nish, about your Kira experience?
I will. The one thing I have to say about the Kira experience is that I did it about 30 minutes before going to work. And I think it was the best decision I made because it really allows you to be yourself. I think that the whole point of the video interview is to truly be yourself, and it's not so you can rehearse something and say something from a piece of paper. So giving yourself the liberty to be exactly who you are and to show your personality and show your excitement is really helpful. And you cannot do that if you're not in front of somebody, and this actually gives you the opportunity to do so. And I really think you should take advantage of that and not think of it as something that's awkward or not think of it as something that's really weird. I think if you can do it right, it gives you a bigger advantage than anybody else.
Good answer. Good answer. And building off of that, because it's a really good question from Ashley, how can you strengthen your application? What are some of the things to highlight? And having seen the applications for the last kind of 6 years now, I would say obviously you want to highlight your entrepreneurial track record. That goes without saying. But show us things that you've actually built. Expand your definition of entrepreneurship. Maybe there was an opportunity or a challenge that you identified on a co-op work term or on an internship, or something you saw in your community where you saw a set of facts. Maybe you didn't have all of the information, but you built something and you did something with it. We're much more interested in seeing that entrepreneurial mindset versus kind of just checking a box of kind of clubs or organizations that you volunteered for or you were on a council for. Don't be afraid to explain failure. Instances where you did not succeed, what you learned from it, what you would do differently the next time. We love to see applications from people who are thinking about solving big problems. We're all about the individual. We are selective based on the entrepreneur that applies, but the venture ideas that you have and the problems you want to solve are indicative of the kind of entrepreneur that you will be. And so if you've got domain expertise, highlight it on your application. If there are problems that you're really excited about solving that are, again, global, where you can disrupt industries, highlight those on your application. So I would focus on that as well. We had another question, I think it was from Matthew Smith, and I might paraphrase a little bit, who wants to know what the most challenging, least favorite, difficult part of the program was. And so I'll give each of you an opportunity to address that.
Here you go, Jacob.
That hurts. So I'll go with the go-to answer. One of the most challenging things is Reza Satchu. Reza, I'm sure you'll give a better explanation, but Reza's basically the leader of the program in many, many ways in our eyes. And what he does is he puts you into a class, gives you a case study to be going through, and then walks you through how he would break down the problem, what you should be focusing on in terms of the finance, the economics, the idea, the strategy, whatnot. And he has a certain way of going about it. He loves cold calling, which ends up being the most difficult part. Where he'll walk into the class and he'll ask you, okay, so Jacob, what would you do in this situation? And if you're not prepared and if you haven't thought it through and if you stammer and don't give out anything worthwhile, he'll call you on it. He gives you the opportunity to give great answers and to do well for yourself. But if you give something that he believes is below your potential, he'll let you know. And I think that's true universally in the program. I think they give you the expectation that they expect you to hit. They set the milestones of where they expect you to be performing. And if you don't perform there, they let you know. They give you the direct feedback into how you can improve yourself and your venture in order to be up to the standard that they're expecting of you. I think that's one of the toughest part of the program, but I think it's one of the most valuable.
And so for those of you who don't know who Reza Satchu is, he's one of the 4 co-founders of the Next 36. He's our founding chair. Currently, he's our chairman emeritus. He's also a partner at Alignvest Capital, and he teaches the course or the classes in the Next 36 based on a class that he taught at the University of Toronto years ago. He's a serial entrepreneur, so he's not a tenured faculty member. And that class continuously, when students were surveyed at the end of the year, was the #1 ranking class at the University of Toronto. And so the course that he teaches in the Next 36 are based on that model that he developed at University of Toronto. And now Andrea.
My least favorite part, and most challenging part of the program was really the balance between the classroom time and running the company, because there are 1,000 things that you have to do all the time, and the classes are tremendously valuable, and your time outside the classroom building your company is really valuable, and you have to decide how to strike that balance. And with the classes, so particular Reza's class and a few others, you have a case study to prepare, and you have to do all the analysis in advance, so when he does call on you, you're ready to answer. But also, like that analysis is as important to look at other companies like Zipcar and Starbucks as it is to look at your own and take those learnings and reflect them on your own. And the limited time you have outside the classroom to work on your company, it really helps you focus on what you need to do and what you don't need to do. So it helps you identify your top priorities, and those get done, and the things that you should be delegating anyway, but you probably would have done yourself if you had the time, you actually delegate them, and you grow from that aspect. But when you're sitting there in class and you're like, I need to take this call, or something happens, it's hard in the moment to realize that, but reflecting back, I think it makes us stronger and better entrepreneurs for it.
Nish?
I think the most challenging part was keeping your team and keeping your emotions intact, because there's a lot of different opportunities in the Next 36, and you really got to focus on the ones that will help make your particular venture better. So in a lot of the classes, you meet a lot of amazing people, and at the same time you have your business to take care of, and at the same time you want to really focus on some of the certain guest speakers or some of the mentors that could really help elevate your venture to the next level. And the most challenging thing is to almost segregate your time so you're using the right people to help yourself the most. And you have to be a little bit selfish. And in a program like this, you have just so many opportunities, you're bombarded with so much. So So maybe be a little bit selfish and think about what the company needs the most.
Perfect. Question coming in off Twitter. Thank you, Sam. An instance of failure that you've experienced. So that will be for each of you. I'll let you think about that, and I can address the second part of the question as well. It has to do with what percentage of successful applicants come from the arts faculties. I would say, breaking down the application over the last few years, probably about 50 to 60% of applicants come from students or grads with STEM backgrounds: science, technology, engineering, and math. Commerce students probably provide about 20-25%, and then the remaining would be from arts and other faculties. But once again, we are program agnostic, so the best students and the most driven students, regardless of what your academic background is, we would encourage you to apply. And hopefully that bought enough time for our alumni to think about an instance where they've experienced failure and what they did with that.
Absolutely. So I'll quickly go through some of the biggest failures we've had over the summer. When we first started, I had myself and another co-founder, and our third co-founder was trialing it out, and he just wasn't a good fit for the team. So we only had 2 people on the team. At this point, it was the very beginning of the program. It was early January, and you felt like, okay, well, nothing's going right in the beginning. We can't get the team right. Why move on? So at this point, instead of doing that, we actually found somebody else. We called every single other person in the program. We actually managed to poach someone from another team to come join us, and that's what it takes to overcome an adversity like that. So then we have a solid team of 3. We're building a great product. When you're building a great product, people stop using it. Okay, so we're going to our customers, and they say, well, okay, this is kind of cool, but it's not as cool as we thought. And for us to be able to take that feedback and quickly iterate on it, so say, well, we are really good at building stuff. We have a bunch of builders on our team. If you tell us that the product is not good enough, we can go build it again. And so for us, it's that within 2 weeks, and not to take a hit and say that, okay, well, our customers don't like it, so that's the end of that. And we see this kind of stuff happening on a daily basis. Something goes wrong every single day. And this goes back to just being so relentlessly resourceful and just keep persevering. And we had failures all the time. Certain failures feel like they can never be solved, and certain failures are just at such a high level of emotional stress. But to keep going was what kept us alive today, I guess. Yeah.
I think my personal biggest failure, at least it felt like it at the time, was when each of my previous co-founders left, because it really makes you think, what am I doing wrong as a founder? What is the company? Is it the vision? Is it something I said? Is it how we're working together as a team as you move forward? But really, it was just that we had different values, and that I was very, very focused on the impact in this particular space, and the other 2 wanted different things for themselves. They wanted to be part of a company or have a different role or work in a different industry, and I'm so grateful that they were aware enough to recognize that early on and leave. But the failure helps you regroup within yourself and identify, what am I the most passionate about, and why am I doing this, and is this really something that I can do by myself and I can continue going forward with, and it helps you reflect on why you're doing it, and if it's still something that you need to do and you have that drive for, then you will persevere and move on in that relentless pursuit of opportunity, if you will.
My biggest failure was likely about 2 years ago. So for context, I've been a math and science tutor for about 8 years now, teaching high school and university level mathematics. And at the time, I had a summer essentially off, and I wanted to try and find something to do with it. So what I wanted to do was expand the tutoring to an online platform, kind of Khan Academy meets Skype, in order to serve a wider market with my given input of time. So I spent about 4 months on it, tried to create the platform, recorded some videos of myself explaining different concepts, had links where you could pay, links where you could connect to Skype tutoring for smaller sessions. And the failure comes from 2 things. One, I guess I had a certain arrogance in it, and I didn't verify to the right extent that people wanted the platform that I was creating. And secondly, I realized that I'm not a particularly adept marketer. So putting in the time and effort into making this the big thing that I wanted it to be, it extended beyond a skill set that I had at the time. So the end of the story is that it was a miserable failure. I think I had 2 people use it in total, and it ended up being a complete waste of a lot of my time and a lot of my money. And then it's only looking back at it now that I can say those lessons learned is what makes it not have been a waste. So realizing the strengths and weaknesses that I have, strengths being perhaps on the technical side, weaknesses being on the ability to take that and create something of it, market it to a lot of people, and then realizing my own internal issues with what led to that, both on the application to Next 36 and as myself and my life moving forward, has made a huge difference.
Terrific. I want to touch on female entrepreneurship because it's a hot button topic for discussion. At the Next 36, we're lucky in that we have some fantastic mentors like Janet Bannister, who's with Real Ventures and brought Kijiji to Canada. People like Andrea Matheson, who is the CEO at Sapphire Digital Health. On the stage at Venture Day, over 50% of the teams had a female founder. But we know that we can always do better. There's more to do. And so, Andrea, I'm wondering if there is a mentor or an advisor, someone, it doesn't need to be from the Next 36, that's had an impact on you in your life that you might want to talk about, and any messages for the female applicants that are watching right now.
You sure you don't want to take this one?
Right, I think you really wanted to.
I am going to start just by saying if you are considering applying to this program, but you're unsure about whether or not you would fit in this like really highly aggressive competitive environment, I would say apply, because that's really when you learn the most from your experiences, is when you're put in that uncomfortable position when Reza calls on you and you have no idea what you're going to say, or you have an idea of what you're going to say but it doesn't come out right, and then he makes fun of you for it. That's really where you grow the most and you have the most confidence. And I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. That was not on my game plan. But I had a lot of experiences that now looking back were somewhat entrepreneurial, like leading a robotics team or groups at UBC, or being part of Engineers Without Borders, that I sought out and led teams with. But the word entrepreneur was never really like in my vocabulary until a few months ago, I guess. So I definitely didn't apply to this program when I first graduated, because I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur, but I've learned so much over that time frame by putting myself in those uncomfortable positions, so definitely do that. In terms of a really strong female mentor, seeing people like Andrea Matheson and Janet Bannister are phenomenal. Within the Vancouver community, finding there's some people who didn't go into entrepreneurship, who went through engineering with me and now are phenomenal role models. So they're not mentors in the entrepreneurship community, but one of them works for Hatch, one of them works for Engineers Without Borders, for Pangea Ventures, who have really helped build my confidence as a person and really challenge me. And then there's amazing, phenomenal male mentors as well, who are really dedicated to helping female entrepreneurs see how the world exists right now, and help us, navigate that world that isn't necessarily built for us right now, and giving us that confidence that we need in order to move forward. So I've had a lot of really strong mentors, both male and female, who have helped me along the way.
Terrific. And shout outs to Next 36 alumni like Emily Cushman, one of the co-founders at Kira, Lauren and Mallory, co-founders of Bridget out of Waterloo right now, 2 Western grads, Jacqueline Ling, who's a McGill grad, who co-founded Blink and was acquired by Kik. And anyone else that I'm also forgetting. Some really impressive alumni on that front.
And recent alumni this year.
And recent alumni.
Like Elizabeth Wicks from Tandem.
Exactly. Next question, I'm going to give you each 30 seconds to answer this. People want to know what's next for your businesses. So in 30 seconds or less, what's next for your company?
So for us, we are currently in market and we're just trying to see how effective our product is. We're going to continue with their trials. We're going to be a completely remote team, so we're going to be using our product ourselves. We are really, really excited because we really think we're onto something. We see a vision of remote development being more and more popular, and we think we can change the world by allowing them to be just as efficient. We live in a century where teams should not be forced to be co-located. They should be able to work from anywhere in the world. We have a vision, we have a great team, and we're going to keep working on it until we get it right.
For us, it's building, putting our heads down, being together as a team. We've been remote for a really long time, and now it's just getting together, build, test, revise, work with the community that we've built, the autism and the autistic community in Vancouver and across Canada, and really work as hard and fast as we can to bring our product to market. But it's really just heads down, pedal to the metal, and really work as fast as we can.
Great.
So our next 4 months actually is going to be spent in Shenzhen, China, as part of the HAX Accelerator. We're moving over there to work on some of the manufacturing. So same thing, pedal to the metal with the bringing this product to market, getting up to the point where you can manufacture 10,000 units, not just one. I think that's going to be where we spend most of our time, and we're anticipating a Kickstarter launch and some more work over there on the business end in 2017.
Okay, and then the last question, just to wrap things up, I'm going to ask each of you again to take 30 seconds, kind of look into the camera, and give a piece of advice to someone who's thinking about applying to the program, either why they should apply or something that you wish you knew a year ago when you were sitting where they were.
One of the things that I've seen from the people in the program, I talked to a few of them while we were at selection weekend, and there were some people who were deliberating one way or another. Should I do this? Should I do another accelerator? Should I go into my venture on my own? And I asked them again now to get their feedback on what the program was like, and they all just laugh and they say, wow, I can't believe I was legitimately considering not being part of the program. It's a life-defining opportunity. I'd say anyone who's remotely interested in either something technical or something not, being an entrepreneur and bringing something to life, definitely apply. The experience not only of applying selection weekend, but the program itself and the mentorship, the guidance, all the resources you get from it are invaluable. Definitely consider applying.
My biggest piece of advice is that if you want something, you have to ask for it. There aren't many people who will have this opportunity and seek you out and bring it to you. And so whether or not you do this program or you do a different program or you become an entrepreneur or not, that's my biggest learning over the last 2 years is really that you have to ask for things that you want. The worst thing that will happen is people will say no, and you're no worse or better off than where you started from. But chances are that was something they hadn't thought of before, and they had these resources and they didn't know who to give it to. And by asking, you're that person that they'll give it to. So just ask.
I think that entrepreneurship become very fashionable recently, but there's a lot of people here who really, really want to do something more than just work for a company or graduate school. And if you don't know what you're doing and if you have a strong drive and strong passion, this is the way to go. Entrepreneurship is the hardest thing that you've ever done. It defines you more than anything else does, and it pushes you to your limits. If you really want to strive for something greater than yourself, and if you're trying to strive for something that changes the world and you have the opportunity to do that, this is the way to do it. If I feel like you shouldn't say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, but this is something you should definitely say yes to. It's a life-defining moment. You meet amazing people, you meet amazing mentors, and you're given the platform to do some really incredible things.
Terrific. Well, I want to thank Jacob, Andrea, and Nish for sharing their time and expertise with everybody watching at home. You're great ambassadors for the program, and we have very high expectations of what you will achieve in the future, so best of luck. For everyone who's watching, just a reminder, applications for the program are open now until October the 18th. If there are any questions that did not get answered, you can email us, you can send them via Twitter. Come and find us at the campus events in your town. It's, as you've heard, a program that is not for everybody. It's very intense. But if this is something that you're interested in doing, I would encourage you to continue learning more. And if you want to be connected with any of our alumni, not just the 3 in front of me, but if you look at our website and you see ventures or alumni that are building companies in spaces that you're passionate about, please reach out to us, because I think the best way to learn about the Next 36 experience is to talk to people who've actually lived it and been through it. And so having said that, I look forward to seeing your applications along with the rest of the Next 36 team. I wish you the best of luck, and we are signing off. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you.